Would you like fries with that? This is a technique to make more money right away with the service calls when you're out there working for a customer. Would you like fries with that? What do I mean by that? Well, I got a few examples
said, hey,
from a
is this
client that
thing
I've been
on?
working with for the last few days. And before we get into that story, though, I think we're going to talk about a question that came in from Selden Ball. And I've got confirmation of SpeakerBot, and there's confirmation of my audio. So yeah, we're cooking with steam right now. Selden Ball, are you in chat? Yes, you are. No start of stream ad today, he says. Yeah, I'm still demonetized, so I don't think you'll be seeing that. Somehow YouTube still makes money off it, but I guess there's not as many ads, so maybe not as much. I don't know how that works. Okay, let me get Selden's email arranged here. Let's see, there's nothing exposed there. Yeah, well done with this email. There's nothing private exposed. Go all the way up here. Here we go. So the subject line of the email is, look at this. I got my red dot back. Yeah. Disk failed. Are there any real-time smart disk monitors? I don't think that would have helped you in this case, and we'll get into that. But here's the situation, folks. Are there any disk monitoring utilities that can run in the background to detect smart disk errors in real time and generate warning pop-ups? On Thursday, today's Saturday, 2 days ago, I had a 1 terabyte SATA SSD fail dead. It was a data disk E drive, which I mostly use for file backups. I then manually copied files to it and didn't use a backup utility. I often manually copied files to it and didn't use a backup utility to do that. Okay. On Wednesday, I had spent some time copying files from the E drive to a USB connected hard drive, spinning Rust drive. It seemed okay at the time. So it was the E drive that failed, the SSD. The day before it failed, as I'm understanding this, he was copying files to a spinning drive, so maybe that means his files were safe. The only obvious symptom at the time of the failure, I kicked myself for saying maybe they were safe. Of course, he's got another copy of those files, right? The only obvious symptom at the time of the failure was that file accesses to the system disk C were intermittently taking a long time. I would expect that to happen when a drive is going bad because it's retry. So yeah, and it would be intermittent as a drive starts going bad. Now, the times when I have caught a drive when it's just right on that tipping point, just going bad. I've had occasions where I first try to access it and boom, I access it. And then I do something else. I should have copied the files right away, but I go back and I can never access it again. Because like once you see that first time, that first sign, in my experience, it can go downhill really, really fast. Looking at Taskmaster revealed that E drive's input-output rate was saturated and that the program accessing it was system. Sorry, I didn't think to grab a screen grab at that time. I didn't think to do a screenshot at that time. Removing the E drive, that's the SSD, returned the system response to normal. So he takes that out, the system stops trying to retry. If you got a bad drive connected to the computer, it can slow down everything that the computer does, even if you're doing things that are not trying to access that drive. Anytime the computer is trying to do anything with a drive, it is evaluating all of the drives. So if you got a drive there connected that's causing problems, it can cause everything else to be slow and it may be intermittent until, as he did here, he removed it. Of course, I first shut down the computer and powered it off, And of course, when he was going to remove it, then rebooted after removing the E drive. Now let's see, he said that was an SSD, but did he tell us whether it was connected externally or internally? Because if it was a USB connected, you could have disconnected it without powering it off. But if you're, wow, what would you do if you're concerned about still trying to get anything off of that drive? Would you want to do the safe eject, or would you want to shut it down to increase your odds? I don't know if any of that would help at all. When I plug the disk into a Sabrent USB SATA toaster, okay, that's the SSD. So that means it was not a USB drive. It was an internal drive. There was the usual new device seen, and he confirms in chat the failing disk was internal. There was the usual new device scene chime, but the disk didn't automatically mount, and except for an initial burst, no current I/O operations were shown by Task Manager. See attached screen grab, 1.png. He's got 3 pictures for us to look at. Looking at Reliability Monitor, I discovered that there had been a warning message saying that there had been a smart error warning that the disk was about to fail and that I should do something about it. See attached screen grabs 2 and 3. It might or might not have been helpful if there had been a pop-up warning generated at the time the smart error had been detected. I couldn't find any setting to do that. For what it's worth, the failed disk is a 1 terabyte Western Digital Blue SA510. I don't see any manufacturing date on it, but I've had it for a few years. The computer is an ancient Lenovo ThinkStation E31. Now, right away, there's going to be some people in chat that are saying, that's the first problem right there. Stop using old equipment. Yeah, all right, whatever. ThinkStation E331, i3 second generation, 16 gigabytes RAM. I'm not going to condemn you for using old equipment. The main question that he came up with is there some kind of utility that would give a pop-up about that smart warning? C: is a Samsung SSD 850 EVO 500 gigabyte, according to Device Manager. It's running Windows 10 22H2 enrolled in extended security updates. If anybody wonders, the earlier red dots shown by Reliability Monitor are the result of trying and failing to run the pre-ALF's release of the spaceflight emulation game Kitten Space Agency. My graphics card is just too wimpy for it. Kitty Space Agency only manages to briefly flash a white screen. Thanks for whatever suggestions you or chat can provide. Thank you, Selden Ball, for sending that. Now let's go get some goodies here for Selden. I'll do that right here. Let's see. @ Selden Ball. Give you 1,000 points for bringing the question and the subject. Now let's go look at his screenshots. Task Manager. This is File Explorer over here, just giving us a blank white screen. So I expect that's trying to access that drive. Showing here disk E, Sabrent disk drive. It shows a brief time of active there. Is there anything else here worth paying attention to? I don't think so. Right arrow key to go to the next picture. Here is his reliability monitor. This would be the warning that he's, critical event that he's seeing. Windows disk failure. I think maybe the next page gives more information about that. But am I going to mention? I'm going to give chat chance to The main thing I want to point out is from this screen, but I'm going to hold off on that and give Chad a chance to chime in with their thoughts. And he told us that these back here, or the exclamation marks, were about the game. These were not on the same line. These were application failures. This one here was a miscellaneous failure for the drive, for the smart. Yeah, here's the detail about it on the next screenshot. Windows Disk Diagnostic detected a smart fault on Western Digital Blue, and it actually gives us a time here, 2:12 p.m. Now, I don't think he told us when he encountered that problem that he described. I'm guessing it was right at that time. He'll tell us in a little bit in chat, I think. This disk might fail. Back up your computer now. All data on the hard disk, including files, documents, pictures, programs, and settings, might be lost if your hard disk fails. To determine if the hard disk needs to be repaired or replaced, contact the manufacturer of your computer. If you can't back up, for example, if you have no CDs or other backup media, you should shut your computer and restart when you have backup media available. In the meantime, do not save any critical files to this disk. I'm going to take exception to that. Shut down your computer and restart when you have backup media available. Well, if there are specific files on that drive that are your must-have concern, I would go try to copy those individually, because any backup process you try to do,
read chat, please,
is going to try to do more than you need. If you can get just the files that you absolutely need, do that now. If you shut the computer down or disconnect it, you may never regain any level of access to it. So those last read chat messages, let's go see what they are on about. I'm going to pop out chat here. Zoom in. Jim says Windows Disk I/O, whoops, has always been crappy. Back in the day, you could bring a Windows 95 system to its knees by formatting a floppy disk. Okay, got it. Selden says, I noticed slowness several hours after the error entry. Okay, good information, good information. So if it had been brought to his attention when that happened, then he might have been able to do something about it. That totally validates his question to me. In my mind, it validates his question, because when I saw this bit here, I thought that he was asking for some utility that would monitor smart reporting and have shown him in days previous. And I was going to say, well, previous days, there was no smart reporting error detected by Windows. So any utility wasn't going to pick that up. What he's telling us there is that this one at 2:12 p.m. was before, a few hours before, did he say? Several hours after the error entry. Okay. So the primary question here is about a utility. And now I don't know offhand about that, so we're gonna call for help here. Do the helpline thing, and I'll just grab all that and copy it, and then I'm gonna go to Google Gemini this time. And my first thought is that one of the kitchen sink programs might do that. Finding a program that does just that, I think that would be hard to do unless you find some little homegrown utility somebody created that you'd be getting from GitHub or something like that. But for a commercially marketed product to do just that, it's too narrow of a focus. So something like Norton Complete System Care or McAfee Total Assurance, whatever the heck their names are, the ones that are doing the full package. I shudder using one of those, but that's where I think it would be, because they're trying to validate their relevance by doing everything. That's where I'm calling them kitchen sink programs. So let's see. Let's go new chat. And I'm just going to paste that whole question in there. Now this is thinking,
chat, please.
This is thinking right now because I have selected the Thinking with 3 Pro choice rather than fast. And it gives much more thorough, well thought out, and somewhat researched answers. So see, it's still thinking on it. Let's go look at that last read chat. Ran Israel. You can create a scheduled task that reacts to a relevant event in Event Viewer. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, let's now let's suppose you're a person who has no idea how to go about starting that. I do have an idea about how going to start that, but I think we're going to try doing it shortly here. So I did a copy of that. This is still thinking. I did submit that already, didn't I? Try clicking submit again. Oh, maybe I didn't. Click like you mean it. Now, evaluating alert capabilities. Sometimes these are entertaining to watch and see what it's doing. You're watching its thinking. Analyzing alert features. Confirming pop-up configurations. Not all chat bots do this kind of deeper thinking. And some of them you have to ask for it. You ask for it. And there's also this tools option here. Deep research is even deeper than this choice over here for thinking with 3 Pro. Because what happens is deep research, it's going to develop a plan for how to research it, and it's going to wait for your approval of the plan and then do the research. And I've had times where that takes more than half an hour for it to complete the research. Here we go. Yes, there are utilities that can do exactly what you're looking for. While Windows has built-in smart monitoring, it is notoriously passive, often only warning you after the drive has already failed during a boot attempt. Yay! The AI got that right. For a utility that runs in the background and generates an active in-your-face pop-up message, because that's what we like, in-your-face pop-up message, rather than just a silent tray icon image change, I recommend Hard Disk Sentinel.
Read chat, please.
Okay, I like that better than one of the antivirus products. And Zavi Manor said, Hard Disk Sentinel. Did you... Just when I'm reading that there, Zavi Manor says that in chat. I have to believe that Zavi said that from his own personal knowledge before seeing it on my screen. You want to confirm that for me, Zavi? I don't think he read ahead on my screen and said, oh, I'm going to slip this in. See if I can fool Doug into thinking that I figured that one out.
That's a Big 10-4.
He said that's a Big 10-4, and he knew it already. So, Zavi, I'm going to hit you with some points. Again, if I miss giving somebody points, please let me know.
Read chat, please.
This read chat was Chat GPZVI rules. I guess that's another chat program. I don't think I've heard of that one. Then, best pop-up solution. Hard Disk Sentinel, paid trial. The utility is widely considered the gold standard for this specific need. Unlike most free tools, which just change an icon color in your taskbar, Hard Disk Sentinel can be configured to display a message box on your screen that steals focus, ensuring that you see it. Okay, I am so distracted right now because Create a scheduled task. Man, Israel. Yeah, I should have given you points for that. This just kept on my mind. The Doug over here was saying, give him points, give him points. Come on, give him points. Unlike most free tools, which just change an icon color in your taskbar, Hard Disk Sentinel can be configured to display a message box on your screen that steals focus, ensuring you see it. How to enable pop-ups tells us actually how to do it. Install it, configuration message settings, display message on screen, also configure to play sound or send an email. Why it fits your case, it can detect weak sectors in data transfer errors which cause the freezing you experience long before the drive actually dies. Detect weak sectors. Now, I'm wondering, I'll bet that it is not relying just on smart data. And Zvi Menor, I'm going to assume, is familiar with it, and you just put a link into chat to get it. I'm going to assume that it is looking more directly at the drive and not just relying on smart data, which would be a way to accomplish that. The best free alternative, Crystal Disk Info. Oh, how about that? We know Crystal Disk Info around here. It's excellent, though its alerting is slightly less aggressive out of the box. It uses Windows notification bubbles and sounds. How to set it up for background monitoring. Install it. So that's you're not using the portable version. You're actually going to install it. In the menu, go to Function and ensure Resident is checked. This keeps it running in the tray. Go to Function, Alerts, and Features and ensure Sound Alert is checked. It will now chime and show a Windows notification if a drive's health status drops to caution or bad. That's not half bad. Of course, you got to be paying attention to notifications, and you wouldn't want to put that on a client's computer because you know what they do with notifications. Just click it away. Don't bother reading. Nothing to see here. Just click it away. Continue with your work. But for your own system, perhaps. The sound alert, I wouldn't trust at all because you might have other sounds playing. You might be away from the computer, but having a notification that shows up and stays on screen until you dismiss it, that's not half bad. I didn't know it would do that, but I'm not at all surprised. Analysis of your Western Digital Blue failure. The behavior describes sudden death, system process saturation, and disappearance is unfortunately a known pattern for the Western Digital Blue SA510 series. The system saturation. The reason Task Manager showed system taking up 100% of the drive's time is that Windows kernel was frantically trying to communicate with the drive's controller. Retry, try again. The drive was likely unresponsive or sending garbage data, causing Windows to retry. Oh, did I just say retry? Read operations endlessly until the drive finally dropped off the bus. The firmware bug, the Western Digital Blue such has a well-documented firmware issue that can cause the drive to become undetectable or break itself suddenly. Crucial insight. If the drive is not physically damaged but just confused, oh, poor baby. Due to this firmware panic, it might sometimes reappear if left unplugged for a significant time. Power draining the capacitors though this is rare. Your reliability monitor findings, the fact that reliability, are you seeing that the AI gives us more background, more information, more look at it this way, look at it this way. I'm often reading through the extra content that these AIs give me. Yeah, I'm spending more time on the task, but it's like it's continuing education. It's not like continuing education. It is continuing education, even if much of this is things that I've come across before, but maybe not top of mind. The fact that Reliability Monitor saw a smart error means the drive did try to warn the operating system, but Windows 10's default behavior is to hide this in the event log rather than showing user-facing error. This validates your desire for a third-party tool. Now, let's point out also, reliability monitor. That is just a window view of selected elements that are in Event Viewer. The things that it's reporting there are things that actually happen in Event Viewer. And Reliability Monitor is just configured to pull out the information from Event Viewer that is particularly of concern or interest. Now that last read chat. Let's see, I'm going to go, here's what I go next. Go see what that read chat was. Google Gemini 3.0 has gotten lots of praise for being the best currently available. Oh, cool. That is what I'm using right now, right? Google Gemini, there's some place for me to see 3.0. No, I'm guessing settings and help. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably what it is. Okay, continuing. Summary of what happened. Wednesday, you stressed the drive with a large file copy. Oh, that's right. What precisely did he say about that? The day before, let's see. Where was that? Why am I not seeing it? Well, it's because you just don't look very good, Doug. Oh, on Wednesday. I had spent some time copying files from the E drive to a USB connected hard drive. So he wasn't copying to it. He was copying files from it. Not a large file particularly, but sometimes copying files. So copy operations that stressed it. You stressed the drive with a large file copy, a bunch of files. This likely triggered a weak sector or a firm instability. Thursday, the drive controller entered a panic state. That just sounds so emotional. There. It'll be better tomorrow. No, it won't. Windows tried to recover high I/O usage. The end. The drive controller shut down to protect itself or simply crashed, making the drive disappear from the BIOS USB bridge. Recommended next steps. Check for firmware updates on other drives. If you have any other Western Digital Blue such and such, if you get a warranty replacement for this one, you must update their firmware immediately using the Western Digital dashboard utility. Are there people watching this video that haven't checked for firmware updates for their drives? Yeah, I bet there are. And I bet I'm not disciplined about it. This patch specifically fixes the sudden death issue you just experienced. Would you like me to guide you on how to check your drive is still under warranty using the serial number? No, I would not, because we are done with you. Thank you very much. Now, that was intriguing about, I'm going to ask you different questions, what I'm going to do. It's intriguing. I think it was Rand's suggestion about scheduled tasks. Yeah, I just took that off screen because I wasn't sure if my clipboard history was going to reveal anything that I didn't want to reveal. So you can create a scheduled task that reacts to a relevant event in Event Viewer. I'm not editing his text, okay? I'm just going to throw out this poorly worded question. It's poorly worded to the AI. It's worded fine to me from Rand. Just to show off how forgiving the AIs can be, even though Doug isn't. This is a brilliant idea. Look at that, Rand. This is a brilliant idea. Oh, the AI likes you today. Since you are comfortable with system administration tasks, you can absolutely build your own poor man's monitoring system using Windows Task Scheduler. Well, let's not call it poor man's monitoring system. Let's call it clever computer technicians monitoring system. Because learning how to use and create things, get computers to do things they weren't natively designed to do, I like that very much. Now, there are arguments against it, because you might go do some homegrown thing that causes you complications on a Windows update down the road. If it's something that's so out of the box that Microsoft didn't anticipate, you might have done that. This method is lightweight, free, and uses the exact same data event logs that Reliability Monitor uses, but it makes the alert immediate and impossible to ignore. Now, I don't think this particular one would be any risk at all, because all it's doing is monitoring the event log and throwing up an alert. Here's how to set up a custom disk failure pop-up warning. And it's so much easier to create homegrown solutions or techniques with AI, because it'll take you right through it. Okay. This was Ran Israel's critique of the AI's opinion of his idea. Clearly an AI of taste and discernment. Selden says, maybe one could even use AI vibe coding to create the monitor. There are tons and tons of ways to do it. So we're not going to do all of them, but we'll look at this. So the most critical event IDs you want to catch are, how would you have come up with these IDs without turning to an AI? Or, I mean, you could Google it, but that's luck of the draw. When you ask an AI, particularly one that does this kind of research, it goes out there and does all the Google searching and comes back with a very tailored response. So these are the event IDs for us to monitor. I'm not going to read through them all. You can see them there. Usually come from sources named disk, such and such. Now, here, the place where AIs are commonly wrong are things like this. The event ID numbers might be wrong, but I'm not, it's unfair for me to say that. I think the event IDs are going to be right because those are kind of long-term established. So I'll bet those are going to be all right.
Read chat, please.
But when it's giving specific, click this menu, that menu, click this button, a lot of times that's wrong. And I find a solution for that a lot of times is to tell it specifically what version of the software you're using, and tell it specifically, limit all of your responses to documentation that references this version. Don't use any documentation that is for older versions of the software hardware involved. And I find that helps a lot. That last read chat. AI, always incomplete. Almost chuckle. Create the pop-up script. Since the old net send or message commands are often disabled or unreliable in modern Windows, we will use a tiny PowerShell command to generate a graphical alert box. Now, this Gemini, with using this Thinking with 3 Pro, this is probably going to be correct. If you use an AI system that you put in a question and bam, it just comes right back, I'll bet it would have come back with something using net send or message commands that may not be available or unreliable. That's the kind of places that I've seen things go wrong, go south. Build the scheduled task. Open Task Scheduler in the right pane, create task. Let's see, let's do this. Is this this one have shareables? No. Pin rename. No, this AI doesn't do the sharing, does it? Okay, somebody might correct me on that if I'm wrong. I bounce around, I sleep around with these different AIs. Building the scheduled task, open the task scheduler, create task, general, name it, security options. Run only when user is logged on, because it's going to be visible pop-ups. At first, when I saw that, I was thinking, what? Why only when they're logged on? But yeah, that makes sense because your whole point is visible pop-ups. Run with highest privileges. That makes sense. Triggers tab. We're going to trigger the source is disk. You also may want to do separate triggers for store HCI or IA storage, and then put in these event ID numbers and tell it to start a program. It's going to start a PowerShell script, add arguments. Now, this is interesting. What are they doing here? Windows style, hidden command, and system reflection assembly, load with partial name, system Windows forms. Okay, that has to do with the message box, I think. Okay, so this is the message that's going to be shown. And you could change the text of that if you want to. Check event viewer immediately, disk monitor, okay, yeah. I'm starting to question whether I'm actually going to run it and go demonstrate this now, because I think that's going to make us really long on this one topic. You now have zero overhead. Monitor. The moment Windows writes a bad block or reset event to the log, this task will fire, interrupting whatever you are doing to warn you. One thing that I like about this, rather than using a piece of software for it, is because it's homegrown, you really know how it's being triggered and what it's doing. Now, a downside for it is the paid program, might be more current and up to date with, there may be other events, IDs, that the AI is not finding for us. That event is generated specifically when the drive stops talking to Windows, which forces Windows to reset the SATA port. It'd be interesting if you had a drive that was intermittently having troubles and you were not relying on it for anything, but you're willing to test these two operations, implement both of them, and see how they behave. That would be interesting to me. Okay, I'm all caught up with read chat, please. And so I think I want to tell about, would you like fries with that? There's a client that I worked for over, let's see, Wednesday,
Read chat, please.
Thursday and Friday, Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday was the main for them. Selden Ball saying, thanks for all the help. You're welcome. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday. They had requested that I come out to fix the Ethernet ports in two inner offices. When I got there, one of them, they had moved furniture in for the person who is now being assigned to this office. The person who was previously in that office was only using Wi-Fi for a laptop connection. They did not have an IP phone in that office. The only reason why they care about Ethernet in that office is for the IP phone system. The person who's moving into that office is using a laptop, and in his prior office, he was using Wi-Fi, not Ethernet. That laptop doesn't even have an Ethernet port. Of course, we could put a USB Ethernet adapter, but he doesn't need it. So that was why they had me come out. Now, I've talked to you about this office before, and I've shown you pictures of their wiring system, and there are problems with their wiring system that I've found. I found cables in the past like this one. Let's see, there we go. Yeah, see that guy right there? This was not involved with the reason why they called me out. This is just one I happened to notice while I was working on other stuff. But their whole network got taken down by some time ago by one port that when that was plugged in to the switch, the whole network crashed. So we unplugged that. We have no idea where that one goes to, but it probably has one of these situations down there somewhere. But anywho, the part about fixing the Ethernet is not the fries part of the story. That comes later after I finished fixing the Ethernet jack in that office, and in the second office found an operational Ethernet port, which that's a whole nother story right there. Why they didn't think any of them were operating, because they tested them themselves. Yeah, right. But after all that was done, I said, okay, I think I've covered everything. Is there anything else you need? Because there's been many times where I leave and then they contact me later and said, oh, I forgot to ask about such and such. So I have a habit that I try to continue doing. Is there anything else that you need or anything else that you need help with? And two things came up. And this is where, would you like fries with that? Because these two things turned out to be, let's see, think of both of them. Well, the first one really more significantly profitable because it took more time. When they asked me to do something that is outside of my normal scope of work. So this was, and I've told you before, I do stuff with copy machines, I do stuff with phones, I do stuff with other security camera equipment, but I tell them, look, that's not my specialty. You're better off, you may be better off contacting the vendor for that equipment. Very commonly they said, we don't like working with them. We like working with you. Or we tried that and they're just not getting it solved. Or we talked to them and they said, talk to your IT person. And they develop an attitude of, please, won't you try it? How do you know how satisfying that is for a client to say they can't fix it, or we don't want to work with them, we want to work with you? So I'll tell them, okay, yeah, I'm probably not going to be as efficient with it. I said, we don't care. We need to get it done. So here's the way this happens. The boss lady is there. I'm kind of condensing the story a little bit, not giving you all of it because it just takes too long. You get the point from this. How do you even do that though? Okay, here's the deal. They told me the Panini check scanner is not working. They have this device that they stick the checks into that they get from their customers. The check runs through the machine and enters it into their software for the bank. They're on the bank's website. It works with this Panini check scanner. I know, weird name. They said the Panini check scanner isn't working. So I said, okay, show me what happens when you try. And they've already called the bank and tried to get help with it. Okay, keep in mind the way they presented, what they presented to me. Customer says the Panini check scanner isn't working. Okay, show me what happens when you try. So they bring up the website. She can't log into the website. You have to be logged into the website to use the check scanner, right? Yes. But you can't log into the website, right? Right. So that's the thing we're having trouble with. the Panini check scanner is probably fine. It's not a problem with the check scanner. It's a problem with logging into the website. Now, other people in the office can log into the website, but this one person has the rights, the configuration from the bank side. I don't know how they have that, how that works, to allow them to use the check scanner. The other people cannot. You cannot log into this person's computer with one of the other valid accounts and use the check scanner. It won't even let them into that module. So it's like the module for depositing checks is only enabled for this person. What happens when they're trying to log in? They put in the username, they put in the password. Do you think that succeeds? Yes, it does. It succeeds just fine. Username and password succeeds just fine. What happens then? Two-factor authentication. That's the real problem. It gives them, I think it was 5 options for two-factor authentication. They're going to call this phone number. They can text this phone number. They can email this address. They can, what was the others? It seems like there was 2 others. I'm not sure what they were. None of them would work. The one for emailing was going to email the person that has the Panini check scanner. The email never comes. It just doesn't come. They have called the bank multiple times. The email doesn't come. Bank says, our records show that it was sent. Same thing with a phone call. It's going to make a phone call to their main line. Call never comes. The text message used to work before the previous office manager left the company. It was going to her cell phone. She's no longer there. She no longer works there. And I said, well, can we call her to ask her what the code is? And I'm told is by my primary contact there is they don't want to call her. They want to break off all connection with her. They don't want to call her. So I go, okay. I'm giving you a longer story because it's just, it doesn't work to give you the short story. So the boss lady has the admin account for the bank's website. We can go in and make alterations to individual users. So we go in there, but it doesn't give us any ability to reset the two-factor authentication. Once the two-factor authentication is locked in for that person, we can't do anything about it. I said you should call the bank and ask them to reset the two-factor authentication. They said, well, we're not getting anywhere with them. I said, well, I can call them on your behalf if you want me to, right here, right now. The boss lady is standing there, so if they might need you to, give permission for them to talk to me. So I do that. I call them, and I realize at this point they've been calling saying that. Well, let's see. No, I was going to say that they were calling saying the Panini check scanner is not working, but they had to have also done the two-factor authentication complaint. But anyway, I get a woman, very helpful, that has no background, no history about this problem. So she's starting from scratch. So she says she wants to contact their tech department, verify that those messages are being sent out. Boss lady leaves, and then I work on some other. I go back to her office because then I got the idea. Okay, what about these emails that aren't coming through and the phone calls that aren't coming through? And I kind of already have the directive. We don't want to talk to We don't want to call the previous office manager. So I'm thinking, are these somehow being blocked? The email system is Google
Red chat,
Workspaces. Let's see. Sam, I don't know if you just sent that or what. I don't recall. I don't have on. Oh, you just sent it there. Okay. We'll get into that a little bit later. Carrie Holzman's in chat. Hello, Carrie. Now, where am I? I'm at my desk. Oh, stop being funny, Doug. You're not good at it. Okay, so I'm thinking it's a Google Workplace Business, whatever that thing's called. And I can see on the other computers in the office that there is a email address admin at their company name domain.com, and it has the boss lady's name. I hope it's not demeaning to say boss lady. I think that's an okay reference. I like all these people. So I see that on the Google Chrome for the person who has the Panini check scanner as an alternate Google Chrome sign-in. So I click on it. The password's remembered. Boom, I'm into the admin account for their Google for Workplaces. Google Workspace. Greg M gives me a better, I think that's more authoritative. Greg M, I'm going to assume you're giving me a correct answer there, and I'm going to throw you some points for that. So I go back to the boss lady's computer and figure that her computer is probably going to automatically let me into that too, so that the woman who's at the Panini check scanner can do other work. So I go in there looking. What I'm looking for is filters or spam filters, blocked email addresses or spam filters, and at the domain level, and nope, nothing there. So then the next thing I think of is, okay, how about their phone system? Does their phone system block robocalls? Because when the bank's two-factor authentication is trying to call their main line with a code, that's probably being interpreted as a robocall. So it might be blocking that. So I find a shortcut on the boss lady's computer. She's out of the office at that time. For that phone system, I didn't even know what it was called. And it wound up being called, let's see, phone, phones for, and then their business vertical market, the vertical market that they're in. So obviously this software makes versions of their software specifically for particular industries that are using vertical market software. So this company is using a software specifically for their industry, web-based, and this IP phone system is tied into that. So it knows all of their customer names and phone numbers so that when a call comes in, it can display on the phone screen who's calling of their customers, and maybe even provide some kind of, customer is late, 30 days late on payment. Just that's all automated for them. So I go poking around in there looking for something that might block robocalls. I'm thinking maybe there's a way to temporarily turn that off. And I used Copilot on the boss lady's computer to guide me through that. Told it what the software was. Is there some way to disable this? And it turns out what they want me to do is to call the vertical market business management software, not the phone software, but the business management software. They're the ones to ask that question because they may have a administrative level that controls that kind of thing. I didn't have access to it. It was the bottom line to change that. So I go back up to the Panini desk, and I'm about ready to wrap up. And boss lady comes back from picking up her kids. And I gave her a rundown of what I've done, and I went back to those two-factor authentications, and I said, you know, the former office manager by phone or by text, or when she was still here, that's how this Panini person was getting into the website. But you don't want to call her. And then the boss lady says, wait a minute. No, I'm going to call her. Boss lady decides to call her because here's what's been going on. This has been this Panini check scanner has not been working for several weeks, maybe a couple months. I don't know how long, which means every day, boss lady has to take the physical checks and drive them to the bank, deposit them, pick up her kids, and come back. And it is a total pain in her life. It is causing her grief, all because they didn't want to call. Well, they didn't want to have to call the previous office manager every time. I think that's probably what they're really after. They need to find a way around this so they don't have to call every time. Because what I told her is we can call her once, get the code, and then put in a different two-factor authentication. That's actually exactly what we did. This took longer than it should have because of their reluctance to call the office manager. But I solved a problem that has been their curse, the boss's curse, for weeks or months. Pain in the butt for her. I solved it. Yeah, it wasn't time efficient, but they were so happy. I thought she was going to start crying right there. All right, that's what I meant. Would you like fries with that? Ask, is there anything else that you need handled? And it is, okay, there's another one. That this gives an important, this is a short time, but it's an important piece of this lesson for trying to help people be more profitable as Windows support providers. I ask again, is there anything else? They say no. I'm packing up my stuff. I start to turn around, and then the receptionist says, well, there is this one other thing. Okay. Yeah, what is it? Well, this phone system, we didn't get any instruction manual, and there is no, can you figure out a way to turn on an intercom system so that I can intercom? Because every time that I got to send a call to the service manager who's in the back, I have to get up from my desk and go over there and tell him there's a call for him on such and such line, because this IP phone system does not have an intercom capability. One in chat, if you absolutely are certain that IP phone system has an internet and intercom capability. 0 in chat, if you believe her. Would you have believed her that the phone system does not have an intercom system? No manual. What you gonna do? I see a 1 from Jim. Yes, it has an intercom. Rick Lakes. Yes. Look at all those ones. Nobody here is buying that. Nobody here is. Oh, Phil Stodd says it doesn't have, and Selden says it might not have an intercom system. I absolutely did not buy it. No way. The answer is not on the ceiling, LOL. I'm sorry, that's not getting chuckle points. Boy, he's stingy with chuckle points today. So how to go about it? This is where it pays to have some gaming experience under your belt. Online gaming, I don't know if it's just online gaming, but like Fortnite, for instance, it's all about discoverability for the
Read chat,
players
please.
to discover how to do things by trying stuff. Chris Garrett's, read chat, please. Jim, users can't live with them, can't unalive them. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Just get walkie-talkies. Yeah. It's kind of. Are you kidding me? Yeah, so look at the phone. Is there a word intercom anywhere? No. INT anywhere? No. There's a menu button. Press the menu button. Scroll through some menu choices. No, none of that. So I asked the receptionist, hey, what's your extension number? She tells me. So I press pound and then her extension number. Nothing. Nada. So then I try the asterisk and her extension number. Nothing. I try just the extension number. Nothing. I try going off
Read
hook.
chat, please.
Nothing. And then I press the pound symbol, dial her not the way. Oh. Take the phone off cradle and hang it up so it's back at its 0 state. Then dial the extension and press pound. Bring, bring. That's it. That's it. Just dial the extension number and press pound. And there's a little word on the pound symbol that says send. It doesn't say intercom, it says send. So it probably applies for a few different things, but just the number and send. That little extra there of just try it. Just try it. And if any, in my opinion, any competent Windows support provider should be able to figure something like that out. Now, if you've been focused mostly on hardware, hardware's your gig, and software, you kind of, doing software is also a discoverability thing. You got to look at what's there and go poke on things. But if your home base is hardware, then yeah, you're probably not going to want to go delving into things like that. But this is another thing that I solved, and that has been troubling them, causing them to be inefficient, causing them frustration, and disliking that new phone system when there's nothing wrong with the phone system. It's fine. Okay, so would you like fries with that? The Jim on your shoulder talking. Was that last read chat? Yeah. Call forwarding, that would be another send thing. Now, then I asked her, after solving that, I asked, is there anything else about the phone system that you need? She couldn't think of anything. And so, well, if you think of something, just let me know. And it's just this morning, I was reflecting on that and thought, I'll bet that what they're doing is they get a call coming in that asks for the service manager, and they're putting it on hold, and now they're going to intercom the service manager and say, you have a call on line 2. Now, he might be in another conversation right now, or he might be on another phone call, or might be away from his desk. If instead they forward the call to his line, and his phone just rings, now the receptionist is done with it. She doesn't have to wait for him to pick up. Not everybody wants to operate that way because it's a little bit better customer service if you make sure somebody's going to pick up that line. If you just transfer the call and that person doesn't pick up the line, then it may be a programming point to get that to ring back to the reception desk or to ring into that person's voicemail. Now, that was another thing. They didn't know how to access their voicemail. And I did solve that for them during that trip. Turned out the receptionist was the only one that cared about accessing her voicemail through the phone, through the buttons on the phone. The rest of them, they were getting their voicemails by emails that went to the admin email address, not their individual addresses. Okay. Now, let's get on to something else. With ketchup. With ketchup. Oh, the fries with ketchup. Conversation there about Wi-Fi versus wired. That's ringing a bell too. Once again, programmers make choices that users don't get. That might be related to the transferring the call and getting it to bounce back to the receptionist. I shouldn't go looking through there.
That's a big 10-4.
Come back here. It still hasn't shown up on my screen that last. Oh, yes, it is. That was Jim. Okay. It's saying that, yes, I was right, speculating what his comment was relating to. Yeah, programmers make choices. Oh, Sam Lazar's email. And I don't even know, Sam, yet what you put there, but I'm going to throw you 500 points just for letting me know that you sent an email. And no, actually, that should be 200. 500 would be for solving something, but just to let me know that you sent an email. There may be more points coming your way. Now, get down. Oh, I configured my email so that I can just press, what was it?
Read chat, please.
So I got to get out of Find. Did I do this? Sam's given us a heads up. It's a bit of a rant or a story from last year. It was a crazy Mac operating system client. It's still worth talking about because there's the relationship of the client, the perceptions, the solutions. So Mac operating story can be quite useful, even when we're dealing in the Windows environment. A specific Mac solution, not so much. And where was I going? Oops, I can't do that. But there is a way to just, I've got so many folders. Well, they're labels in Gmail that to get back up to the inbox and be able to click on inbox, scroll, just takes too long. So I asked an AI, surprise, surprise, if there's a way to fix that. And it told me, yes,
Read chat, please.
Come over here into settings for your Gmail, scroll down to keyboard shortcuts and turn keyboard shortcuts on. So I already have it on. I just must have been forgetting what the shortcut was that I need to go straight to the inbox. I thought it was I for inbox. Computer, Android, or iPhone, iPad, jumping. Okay, there it is. Oh, that's right, G. G for Go or G for Google. Now, I'm going to see if I can get to a place where I can. No, I can't demonstrate because I don't want to take you straight to the inbox on screen. So no booster keys. Don't do any Control Alt or Shift. Just wherever you're at in Gmail, as long as you're on that tab, G and then I. Well, of course, you can't do it if you're actually editing an email. But if you're at a screen where where you can't actually type, press G, then an I, and it takes you straight to the inbox no matter where you're at. The downside is the navigation panel on the left-hand side does not scroll up to the inbox. It stays wherever you are at, which could be an upside depending upon what you want to do next. All right. Checking for confidential information. And he does have his email address and phone number for his business, but I'm going to avoid showing that because YouTube has taken down my videos when I expose somebody's information, such as their phone number. So I'm going to arrange the size of this and practice to see how far down I can go. Now it's real obvious where I'm going to know where I'm going to get into dangerous territory. Okay, so here we go. Crazy Apple client is the subject line. Hi, Doug. I hope you're doing well. Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if you come across any wild IT tech stories lately. You mean like yesterday? But I wanted to share one of my more memorable experiences from last year. And I don't think that was the only one this last week for me. It started when I got a referral from my gym instructor for a client who needed to replace her aging iMac. To meet her needs, I set her up with an upgraded Mac Mini, 16 gigabytes RAM, which was a step up from the base model at the time, along with a Dell USB-C monitor, a USB-C hub dock for front-facing USB ports, and added functionality, and a Logitech keyboard and mouse combo. Okay, Mac Mini, that's a mini computer, right? That's not a laptop. Along with, so an external monitor. Yeah, I think that'd be a mini computer. So not even a HDMI or DisplayPort monitor. They're going straight all in on USB-C. All right, that's all right. Sam says Apple Mini PC, Mac Mini. All right, otherwise referred to as Apple Mini. Yeah, not a laptop. It is just a computer, no keyboard or monitor, says Greg M. Things took a turn when she expressed frustration that the keyboard wasn't an Apple product and that she had to use on-screen controls to adjust monitor settings. That's kind of, yeah, you ought to be using an Apple keyboard. I explained that the choices were made to save costs without compromising quality. Yeah, but if it's a functionality problem, she remained critical of nearly every aspect of the setup. Once they got you on one thing, kind of starts snowballing, you know. Even after installing Dell's now, to be honest, I could easily have made the same mistake because I'm not in Apple equipment enough. Even after installing Dell's monitor software to enhance functionality, she questioned why extra software was necessary for something she felt Apple would have integrated seamlessly. Once you get started on the critical thinking, it's going to snowball. Can snowball. Later, she asked me to source a printer. So I arranged for an Epson WF 4830. Almost immediately, she complained about the cost of ink and questioned why I'd chosen such a big printer. At one point, her daughter, a year 12 student, brought her MacBook to me, hoping I could set up the printer. I explained that the device might be too outdated for optimal performance, which led to the daughter storming off in frustration. Oh, man. Oh, this is just painful. And this is all stuff about a year ago, I think he had told us. Eventually, the client would call repeatedly to report printer issues, and each time I'd explain that the issue was low ink. Either she could purchase replacements herself, or I could source them for her, adding a travel fee for delivery. After several rounds of this, and with her unwillingness to buy the ink herself, the call stopped altogether. Oh, ouch. That's just painful. Looking back, I think the core issue was that she wanted an all Apple environment, not just to be in the Apple ecosystem, not just one foot in the door. Most Apple users I've worked with prioritize seamless integration over owning every Apple product, but this client had a very specific and costly vision in mind. Let me know if you've encountered anything similar. I'd love to hear your stories too. Let's start with, before getting into anything similar on my part, let's look at lessons for future encounters with other things that are a little bit outside of your normal. Apple is a little bit outside of my normal, and I think you told them that this is not your main area, because this is where I've expressed a few times. I'll tell them, hey, I'd be happy to help you with that, but that is outside my normal expertise. I might not be the most efficient choice for it. And if they say, yeah, I want to work with you, that gets them in a positive frame of mind. Never mind that perspective should have existed without them saying that. By triggering them to say that, they then believe it on a deeper level and will be able to look at other things a little more optimistically towards you being a good guy, even though we all know you are. Let's see, from last year. Okay, so I'm guessing from last year means 2024. Started with a referral from the gym instructor. Man, those referrals are just gold. If she goes back and tells that gym instructor about the frustration she had, that gym instructor is far less likely to keep referring you. It is so important to prioritize people that have been referred from someone else, because that gym instructor, I'm guessing you didn't ask that gym instructor to refer you. That gym instructor referred you for some positive impression they have of you. When you find a referral engine, a person who can refer over and over and over to that person and that person and that person and that person and that person, that is gold. And you've got to try to provide gold white glove service to everybody they refer to you.
Read chat, please.
Get paid, still charge for your time. Sam says, my gym instructor still refers me to other clients. Good. He is not an Apple user and hates Apple. That probably helps. And I agree, Greg. One can only bend over backwards so much. And I've told you stories along those lines too. But I think I don't really think of it as bending over backwards. I just give a very, very, devoted level of service, but I'm charging for it. I think a lot of times when people think of bending over backwards, they think they're doing things for free or they are doing things for free. And I'm saying no. So have the conversation in such a way that they understand that if they choose to have you pursue this, you're going to put your best effort into it, but you're not going to be very efficient with that by your own admission because it's outside of your normal. We're going to need to replace her aging iMac, which is a good thing to replace it. To meet her needs, I set her up with an upgraded Mac. Now, here's a part that I'd like to discuss or ask about. You set her up with an upgraded Mac. The way that you've worded this gives the possible impression that you made the choice. And you said, okay, this is it. I'm setting you up with this. Whereas, depending upon, this was a new client, so definitely with a new client, I will discuss options. You've been using an iMac. Here's something that's available. That's an efficient price environment, but it's a little different setup. You got a Mac Mini. You got a monitor connected external to that. She's used to the iMac. It's all in one. Very little cables. That's a very clean system. Probably a wireless keyboard and mouse. Very simple, clean environment on the desk. Now, you've made the decision to bring in a Mac Mini and a monitor, another keyboard and mouse. They're not Macs, which is she's used to the Mac keyboard. And you've decided that price is a priority. That's the impression that I get from here. Now, Sam, I don't care whether that's not the way that you handled it or not. I'm talking this through for other Windows support providers to consider.
Read chat, please.
That you should give the customer the options and discuss the pros and cons of each way to let them think it through. And I've had many times when they initially resist a certain method, by the time I talk through the pros and cons, then they've changed their mind. But keep in mind, I'm charging them for my time. I charge for the conversation with them. I charge for looking through what's available for purchase. I charge for placing the order. If I'm actually placing the order, I charge for all of that. Let's see, that last read chat was Sam Lazar saying, yes, I did make the choice. The 8 gigabyte model does not have enough RAM. I went with the Mini to save money and more RAM. Yeah, I very much disagree with that approach. I don't think you should be making the decisions, especially for a new client. When I start working with a new client, I tell them what my hourly rate is. I tell them that my time starts when the phone call starts and stops when it ends, or my time starts when I arrive and it ends when I leave your location. If it's a remote support, it starts when the remote support session begins, whether you're on the phone with me then or not. Whatever work that I'm doing for you, my timer is running. If a person decides they don't want to go that way, they want somebody who gives free estimates, free quotes. I don't do that. Then I'll tell them, I don't think I can be of help for you. Somebody who has that mentality is not going to be a good client. Never. I fired a very rich client over a $25 charge. I charged $25 for researching and selecting, well, actually not selecting a product for them, but researching and giving them information about a product for them. I think it was an paid antivirus they wanted. So I charged them $25 for it. And this is a client who I'd been maybe earning a couple $1,000s a year off of. And his assistant called and said he doesn't want to pay this $25. And I said, okay, let's do this. Don't pay that bill at all and find somebody else to provide your support. Now, that's pretty tough, but that's because I already had a very strong sense of this person. And I did not directly interact with this person very much, but this person was somebody who is very, very penny pinching, a huge, wealthy person in the Fresno upper society. You know, the type that shows up at charity events and is giving huge amounts of money here and there. But no, this $25 charge, not going to do. I don't want to work with them anymore. Okay.
Chat, please.
There's a couple of read chats that I'm delinquent on.
Read chat, please.
I think there's 3 now. See, if I had my new system in place, it'd be telling me on screen. There's 3 read chats waiting. Who was before that? No, I did get that one. So maybe it's only 2. I could usually tell which people were going to be difficult when I was working at a repair shop. They would balk at the diagnostic we charge just to look at something. Yeah, absolutely. Is payment is different for handling in a takeover than for handling in the client's office? Yeah, okay, I'm struggling a little bit there. If you know how to help me understand that better, hit me with it. Is payment is different for handling in a takeover than for handling in the client's office? I'm not understanding that. It's a question because there's a question mark. Thank you for that.
Read chat, please.
Remote versus on-prem. I think Rand is trying to
Read chat,
explain
please.
what Zavi meant, remotely. Is different for handling and takeover remote. Handling in a remote support than handling in a client's office. It's the same rate. I charge the same rate. So I think he's referring to the rate. Yeah, I charge $115 an hour. January 1st, it's going to go up to $120. I will not be specifically pointing that out to my clients. Now, you might question, well, remote. This includes remote where they're not on the phone with me. I might be doing something after hours. The remote software that I'm using leaves a log, a message on the screen that I was connected, and it provides detailed information about that. I can always provide documentation if anybody ever questioned it. They don't question it. And part of that reason is because sometimes they find a 5-minute charge for something I did that fixed something that's been a big pain to them. So it's a huge value. And it's obvious that I could have padded that time charge if I chose to. So they see things come through on their invoice that obviously could have been padded more, that were obviously
Rud chat, please.
justified more time, but I didn't charge more time because I charged what I actually spent. When you build time is time, no matter on-site or remote or just conversation or just chit-chat. And I've told you that before too, is if somebody chooses to have a friendly rapport conversation with me, I'm on the clock. And they know that, and they see the value in having a rapport. A lot of business people that are of the caliber that I want to be my clients, they realize that it is beneficial, it is profitable to have some level of rapport with the service people that are providing services to your business. To just keep it cut and dried, do the work, get out, do the work, get out, no conversation, that has some downside to it in the long run. So the type of business people that realize rapport and having a connection with people is a good, beneficial thing, those are the kinds of clients that I want. So it's been a long time since I've had anybody object or question. Now, sometimes I do discount. If I initiate conversation, ask them, hey, how's your kid getting along with that thing that you told me about? I will put in parentheses on that time charge, courtesy discount half hour, or whatever the time is that I think is appropriate to discount for that. That's if I initiate the social conversation. I do that. Gas and travel are not counted, Ran Israel asks.
Read chat, please.
I do not claim that everybody should do that. There's a specific reason for me to not include gas and travel, and I'll give you that explanation. I do not charge driving time. That's true. That's why I think the price should be different. In some environments, yes. For my philosophy on this is specific to me and specific to Fresno. It's not going to fit for everybody. If I charge less for remote support than for on-site support, then that creates an incentive that the client wants me to fix things remotely that I know I need to be on site to be efficient. To do that remotely is going to take longer and maybe be impossible. I want to be able to decide this can be handled remotely or this needs to be handled on site. So it's my decision, never my client's decision, whether it's going to be remote or in person. If there's a difference in pricing, then the client has some vested interest. The reason why I don't charge driving time or gas is because all of my work is within 15 minutes travel, anywhere that I'm at in Fresno, and then traveling. If I do traveling time, then am I traveling from my home straight to the client's office and then back? Or am I out doing a variety of different things? If I'm out doing a variety of different things, do I charge from one spot to another, or do I manipulate to be from my home? And since there's so much so close, I have just elected that it is simpler and less record tracking for me to just eat the driving time. But that also gives me grounds to handle something remotely instead of on site. Now, that has a cost to my client, because sometimes that means I need the client to stay on the phone with me while I'm connected remotely to their computer, because I need them to do some things. So I'm imposing on their time. It is totally justifiable to charge driving time and gas. Now, there have been times in the past when I had clients who were 45-minute drive away. I did charge driving time for that. What I did is I charged my full hourly rate one way. So that amounts to, half rate for traveling time, which I'm not totally satisfied that is quite right. I think if I am unable to work for another client at my full hourly rate because of what I'm doing for them, that justifies me charging the whole round trip if it's not in my local service area. So that's a thing that all of these are things that individual technicians have to decide. I'm putting out what I'm doing, sharing what I'm doing to possibly broaden the scope of thinking for some of you. Now, the part about the cost that Sam was dealing with, the decisions he was making to be lower costs, some clients don't care about that cost difference. Especially in the case of that keyboard where that client was
Read chat, please.
used to a Mac keyboard. Every time she uses that computer, that keyboard is an irritation. And you don't want to have the client being irritated at you every time they go use their computer. Spending an extra $100, $200, $300 for a different keyboard. Some clients aren't going to blink. And so you got to get your own values out of the picture. Present the choice to the client. Let the client make the choice. And you're going to be okay with doing this as long as you're getting paid for that time of presenting the choices. I think a lot of technicians get stuck in the trap of not charging for their time in selecting the product, and therefore they don't want to talk with the client about it because that's time down the drain. Oh, Lawn Dog, I want to answer that question. I just happened to glance that. Because that's well, all right. That gets into a whole nother thing. Is there a read chat or two that I'm delinquent on? Sam, charges travel if it is a while to get to the client. Yeah. I try to reduce or restrict or eliminate the amount of things that I have to be discretionary about to decide. And there was a time when I had 2 different price levels for clients who have been with me started with me at a lower rate. Let's see, I think I started at $75 an hour, and then I went up to $95 an hour. So that's a $20 jump. And I'm stressing right now over a $5 jump. And then I started taking on new clients at $110 an hour, I think. So for a while I had 95 and 110. And I just did not like having the 2 different pricings because it was just too easy to make a mistake there. Then I got everybody up to the 115. You know what? Maybe I need to go higher than $5 increase because it's been a few years. And if anybody complains about it, I give them the explanation. I'm too busy. I need some clients to go find somebody else. You tell that to a client, now you got a reverse psychology thing coming on. No, I don't want to be one of the clients that doesn't get dug anymore. So, yeah. I think I'm caught up on the read chats. But I saw Lawn Dog asking about the phone repair, your phone repair. How much time did you spend on that adventure? If it wasn't successful, would you have charged them for your time? Yes, I would have, because I tell them this is not my area. I may not be efficient about it. I may not be successful. Yes, I'll try it if you want, but I can't guarantee it. When I say I can't guarantee it, that means I'm not guaranteeing my time. So yeah, I would definitely charge them for that. Now I did have the how much time did I spend on that adventure? That was a couple of hours. And if okay, here. My primary contact in that office, I asked him if we could just call the former office manager because I didn't think there was any real animosity in that departure. It was planned for a long time. I had helped them set up for her leaving. She was essentially retiring. There shouldn't have been any problem with calling her. And he told me they don't want to call her. They want a clean break from her. And in hindsight, I wish I would have been more skeptical about taking his word for that. But then as I was working with the staff, and I said, well, this is the former office manager's cell phone for text and phone. So she's getting those messages. And I didn't say, why don't we call her to the other people? The boss lady came in, she was involved in that conversation too, but it wasn't until after I spent a couple hours that the boss lady said, oh, I'll call her. And there was a little bit of a caving in, like there genuinely was a resistance to it. And I heard her side of the phone conversation. There was no animosity there. It was completely cooperative. So yeah, a couple hours. But the thing that I spotted Lawn Dog's comment for is actually the wiring, because I don't do wiring through walls and ceilings. But turned out that this one back office, none of the ports were live. And the boss lady had said, no, it's just a configuration thing in the phone system. You're plugging in the phone to those outlets and the phone's not coming alive because of a configuration thing in the software. She was certain of it. And I said, no, I don't think so. And so I went around with my laptop to each of those ports, no life. No, I didn't get the rectangle icon indicating connected to Ethernet. So one thing led to another. It got deeper and deeper. I have all of the wiring stuff. I brought with me my 1,000-foot reel of Cat 5e that's been sitting around here for, I don't know, a couple decades. Greg M says in that last read chat, he says, but calling the former office manager accomplished signing into the bank account. Is the 2FA authentication code's configuration information been changed? Yeah, that's what I did right away. And I think that's what allowed her to say, okay, I'll do it, because that's what I told her in that conversation. And thank you for pointing that out, because I didn't even think to tell you that. Is that I said, all we got to do is get signed into this once, and then we can add a new two-factor authentication. And I think that's what might have put her over the edge to say, okay, because I think they were resisting it because they thought they were going to have to call every time, ask the former office manager every time. And that hadn't occurred to them that we could simply change it. Yep, I did that right away. And the expressions on their faces, and it wasn't like, why didn't we think of that? It was more like, you're a genius. Okay. Ethernet. Yeah. And so we get to the point where we need to run a line from a wall outlet, an existing Ethernet jack, up into the plenum space, I think it's called, above the acoustic tile. There's one port that has wire there. So I'm looking up above the acoustic tile, trying to find the other end of that, so we could just use that as a pull wire. But it's not up there anywhere. It might be going laterally somewhere in the wall, or there was a secondary wall that it could be going way up into the ceiling above the plenum area. I hope that's the right word. That I don't have access to, so I can't use it as a pull wire. So I had brought my fish tape with me too, metal fish tape. But because that box is in the wall, I'm not going to be able to fish down to that box from the top. If I go up from the bottom, my experience with fish tape is it just bends and it's not going to go all the way up. So my primary contact, who is pretty much shoulder to shoulder with me through most of this, He says, well, there's these magnetic devices now where you just pull the lead magnet up the wall. And well, I don't have it. It's out in the car, but that's what it looks like. So I ordered it right there sitting in his office. I went shopping for it and I ordered it, and it was going to be delivered between 4 and 8 a.m. the next morning to my address. Keep in mind, the time that I spend shopping for that and ordering it, I'm on the clock for that. I'm working for their office. And I was deliberating whether I'm going to charge them for that or not, or charge them part of that. Because of the way the story wound
Read
up,
chat, please.
I'm not going to. Zavi Minor says, see above. The manager received a message on her phone and she did nothing to inquire with the company owners about why she was receiving messages. No, that's not correct. They had not been selecting that option. They had the option to do a two-factor authentication using the former office manager's text or voice call, or a voice call to their main office line, or an email to the person who was using the Panini, who's assigned the Panini. So no, that person had not been receiving messages. Good clarification. All right. So the next morning I come back with that device and it's a total bust. It just won't do it because it turns out the studs are metal. They're made out of metal. They're not wood studs. And I don't know what to call it. I'll call it the rabbit. The rabbit is a magnet of its own, and this guy is a magnet. Super, super powerful. And I opted for the more expensive rather than the $25 cheaper knockoff that looks identical, because I figured it might be a different power magnet. And upon research, I found that it's also different wheels. These wheels aren't going to mar up the wall. So anyway, I need to push this thing through one of those little round access holes in the box, in the metal outlet box. I got to push it up there. So when I'm pushing it up there, this thing is bang, bang against the magnetizing against the metal. So I have to struggle to get it over and up through that hole. When it gets up to that hole, there's that metal stud, and boom, goes across here. This magnetic tractor on the outside of the wall, it's got absolutely no chance of attracting that rabbit to it. There's just too much going on there. So the guy that's working side by side with me for most of the time, my primary contact there, he says, well, how about your metal fish tape going up? He tells me that these metal studs, they're smooth all the way up. I was thinking there was probably some, flanges or creases or stuff that the metal fish tape would snag on and just bend. I was assuming it would do the same as others. And he said, no, it's smooth. So I made a couple experiments with that and got it to work. I gave him the credit for suggesting the idea. Fire blocks, there weren't any. It went all the way up like 10 feet. There was no horizontal blocks. He had also expressed concern about that, but got all the way up fine and it worked. So then I left a string in place to use as a pull wire later. Now, that is all kind of a long description about that one piece. There were several other pieces to get this whole thing put together. And I wanted to let you know how much time I spent on that fixing the Ethernet for the one office. The other office was pretty quick fix, but it's also a good story as well. Let's see. That is, if I go create weekly timesheet, that was Wednesday and Thursday. And okay, so that was, that most of my time on Wednesday was working on that, which was just a little over 4 hours. And on Thursday, it was just the morning portion working on that. So let's see, I get down here to the Thursday section, and that was almost 5 hours, 9 hours to fix the Ethernet for that one office. They're not going to complain. I promise you, they're not going to complain. Lawn Dog says it's great to have that tool available when needed. Well, with that much money spent, yeah, I don't mind keeping this at all. I could return it because it's be very simple to return. But I like this as a stud finder. This thing, you roll this up the wall, and it finds that nail, and then it just sits right there, and it's got these marks on it that show you exactly where the center of that stud is, and it can do it on the top or the sides. And I have other magnet devices for finding studs, and I think a sonic stud finder, but man, this just works so much better. The second office, they had gone around with a phone, one of these IP phones, and tested all of the outlets. Now, this office was recently occupied by someone else who did not have a phone in there, and their computer was connecting by Ethernet. By Wi-Fi. So they were not using Ethernet there. But the person that was in that office prior to that did have a phone and did have Ethernet. However, at that point in time, all of their patch panel and their network switch was located in that office. It has since been moved out to another office out in the shop. So all the wires have been moved. I found a couple packets, bundles of wires that had just been cut. And that's why so many of these outlets are not live anywhere, because they were all cut. So it's believable that none of these outlets were live. They took an IP phone, went around to them, but I don't trust a client to do troubleshooting.
Read
So-
chat, please.
Get to that in a moment, Marsman. So I went with my laptop and connected to them, to each of those, and I found one that went live. So I had asked the client, can we postpone this to another day, because I've got a lot of work lined up. Is this impending? Is this going to happen soon? I was thinking it might be a few weeks before they need to occupy this office. And they said, no, they're going to paint this office, move the furniture in. They're ready to go. We could wait a couple days. I said, no, let's not do that. It's waiting a couple days isn't going to help the stresses that I have over my workload. So I went and got some lunch, came back, took my laptop around, boom, there it is. And I show the person who's going to occupy that office. I ask, is this outlet okay, as opposed to this other wall, which is not connected right now? He said, yeah, that's fine. Now, why did they fail? I'm going to give chat a chance to answer this. Speculate. Why do you think they're testing with an IP phone? It should plug into a live outlet. It should light up on the screen. Why do you think that probably failed? I'm going to give you a chance to come up with that answer. And, 4.5 minutes ago. Oh, Marsman asked the question, were you able to retrieve the rabbit that stuck to the metal stud? Yes,
Read
but it
chat,
was
please.
difficult. It was difficult. It was difficult because I had to get my fingers in there, and there's this metal outlet box you got a lot of sharp edges there. I thought I was going to come away with some cuts. I got a lot. I did that whole time, didn't get any cuts. And I got to kind of push it off to the side and pull it down. It was difficult because I actually got it all the way up inside one of those round holes. So getting it back down while it's sticking to the side, I was a little worried about it. But I did get it back. Static IP, no, that is not the reason. Different subnet, no, not the reason. Can't wait too long on that. Are the phones powered via Ethernet? Yes. Yes, they don't use external power. The switch is a power over Ethernet, PoE. Cable was not plugged into the PoE switch. No, this was the whole thing about them saying none of those outlets were live. When I plugged in my computer, I got live on my computer, which can happen if that outlet is connected to a non-power switch. I think that's what Greg is saying. The cable was plugged into a switch, but not a power over Ethernet switch. Yes, it was connected to a power over Ethernet switch. And that outlet did function with the phone. After I verified it with my computer, then I tested it with a phone, and it came live without me doing anything special. What did they do wrong? All right, I think I need to just go ahead and tell you what it is. How many Ethernet ports does an IP phone have? I don't know, Doug. How many ports does an IP phone have? Sounds like a joke, right? I'll let you answer in chat. There we go. Ran Israel. Two. All these people. An IP phone has 2 ports. Now, there we go. Yeah, not the accessory port. The accessory port is typically an RJ11. So that's close. You're on the right track. They plug the cable to the pass-through port. Yeah, and it's labeled computer. So, Rand got that. Probably what they did. They plugged the Ethernet in on the phone to the port that's intended to go to the computer, otherwise known as the pass-through port. One for network in and one for PC out. Exactly. Same answer, but just different words. All right. 45 seconds left. How is it that I always happen to note it? I don't have any alarms telling me that it's almost quitting time. Oh, I've got a lot on my plate this weekend and probably over Thanksgiving of work that I intend to do for clients where I need the employees out of the office. But we might take either Thursday or Friday and go up to the snow. See the snow. All right, so here's the email address. If you've got a question or a story to send, You can send it to that address. And high focus on this channel towards improving business and profits for Windows support providers, regardless of whether you get your profit through money or through appreciation. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Catch you later. Good. Oh, hey, I fixed the outro, the thing that's been bugging me about the theme song, the outro. So pay attention. Pay attention. I fixed it. Let's see. Which one do I do? Which button is it? It's been so long. In stream, in screen, in live. I think it's this one. Hopefully I got the right one. Goodbye.
That's all, folks.
Tune in 6 days a week for Windows support, the help you seek. Send an email, leave a comment, join the chat. Our tech-savvy crew is where it's at. Not just me, but a whole community, helping you solve tech mysteries. With friends who are here almost every day, we love to chat and help you find your way. So subscribe now, be part of the team, for Windows support and more than you dream. Join the fun, don't miss a single stream. At LiveWindowsTraining-DougBetts or simply where tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme. Tune in 6 days a week for Windows support, the help you seek. Send an email, leave a comment, join the chat. Our tech-savvy crew is where it's at. Not just me, but a whole community, helping you solve tech mysteries. With friends who are here almost every day, we love to chat and help you find your way. So subscribe now, be part of the team, for Windows support and more than you've dreamed. Join the fun, don't miss a single stream. At LiveWindowsTraining-DougBetts or simply more deeply VB, where tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme. Tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme.